Okay, before I start for today's work, I just want to make sure that we can remember how to round to significant figures. So if I take the following number, and I was asked to round it to one significant figure, reading from left to right, my first significant figure is the first non-zero digit I come across. And in this case, it's the number 4, and that's in my thousands column. So if I am going to round this number, I would round it to the nearest 1,000, in which case that number is closer to 4,000 than it is 5,000. Let's try this one, 38,452. My first significant figure, the first non-zero digit I come across, is this 3, and this time round that's in the tens of thousands column. And so when I'm rounding this number, I'm rounding it to the nearest 10,000. And this number is closer to 40,000 than it is 30,000. No, we don't have to put the commas in anymore. That went out about 20 years ago, but I still think it helps. Let's try a decimal. 0.0532. This time around, here is my first significant figure. It's my first non-zero digit when reading from left to right. So 0, 0, here we are, first non-zero digit. And this time round, it's in the hundredths column, or if you like, the second decimal place. So you round it to the nearest 100 or to 2 decimal places. In so doing, I would end up with 0.05. And finally, let's just do one more of those, 0.0403. Okay, here is my first significant figure, and it's still in the hundredths column, so I would still round this to the second decimal place or to the nearest 100, in which case I would end up with 0.04. Now by the sides of these, if you rounded to one significant figure, then you need to state that. And this just says it's one significant figure, 1 SF. And you would do that for every time you round. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, would you mind please the title, the date and the margins? The title for today is Approximating Calculations, and I'm trying to convince you how you can quickly do your calculations without having to be exact. Okay, 2 minutes please for that, and then we'll move on. I would like you now to be able to take all of these numbers here and round them to one significant figure. Please copy and complete the table. You've got 4 minutes for that. Okay, check your answers now. Okay, how much taller is the giraffe than the dog? There's a couple of ways you may want to answer this. You could answer it by taking the 527 centimeters, 5.27 meters, and taking it away from 9.63, as was done in the first example here. You could also do it as 527, take away the 96, so ignoring now the decimal bit from here. Or you might want to do it as the last person has done by saying, well, you know what, 5.27 meters is about 5-ish, 96.3 centimeters is about 1 meter, so 5 meters, take away the 1 meter equals a 4 meter. And it's that kind of thinking today that we're going to try and use for our approximations. So we're told that Jay wants to buy 17 donuts for his friend. One donut costs 45 pence and he has £12, or John has £12. Does he have enough money to buy the donuts? Well, looking for the approximations on there. When we approximate, we round to one significant figure. So the 17 donuts gets rounded to 20. In other words, when we look at the first significant figure, it's this digit here and it's in the tens column. So we round this to the nearest 10. So is it closer to 10 or 20? It's closer to 20. And when we look at the 45 pence here, again the first significant figure is in the tens column. So when we round this, we're saying that this number is closer to 50 than it is to 40. Remember the idea of 5 or bigger, we round up. So our cost is simply going to be 20 times by the 50, which gives us 1,000 pence, or in other words, £10. So roughly speaking, we think we've got enough cash. So on this side, we're just looking at when is it okay to approximate. Well, I guess if you're counting students going back on a bus, you kind of want to make sure they're all there so you don't approximate for that. When you're looking at the dose of drugs to give a patient, you want that to be exact. You don't approximate for that. When you look at paying your taxes, you're going to get done if you pay the approximate amount of cash. You need to pay the exact amount of cash. If you've got a farmer who's calculating the amount of seed they need for their field, again, you want that to be pretty much exact, because a slight mistake in your approximating, and that means you're going to be spending a lot more extra cash. So which ones are we left with? How far you go for a run in the morning, that would be fine to approximate. You're not going to lose out any big amounts of cash, and you're not going to kill anyone if you approximate that one. And how much you're spending on for lunch for the week. So those are the ones that I would argue you could do an approximation for. Okay, this slide is just showing that when we approximate, we round to one significant figure. So when we're looking at the amount that's being spent on lunch, your first significant figure here is the first non-zero digit that you're coming to. And in all of these cases, it's in the pounds column. So you just round those to essentially the nearest pound, which we can see there. Add them all up, job done, far, far easier than having to get into decimals. When we're looking for this one about the schools and students, here are my first significant figures. They're the first ones that I'm coming to, the first non-zero digits that I'm reading. And you can see here that they're all in the hundreds columns. So we would round each of these numbers to the nearest 100. Add them all up, job done. Okay, people, I'd like you to spend about 10 minutes on this one. Thank you very much, and off you go. 5 minutes left. Your last minute. Okay, would you mind checking your answers, please? And make a score in the margins. Just out of interest, when I'm looking at, say, question 6, there are 2,712 students, so let's round that to one significant figure of 3,000. 540 of them take a bus, so to one significant figure, that's 500. 255 of them ride in a car, so to one significant figure, that's 300. And simply 3,000 take away 500 take away 300 is 2,200. Now look at this symbol here. That means approximately equal to. It's quite a nice one to be able to do, because we're not saying the answers are bang on equal to something exact. We're saying it's approximately around that. Anything else to mention? When I look at this one here, the 4.51 squared, when I round that to one significant figure, the 4 is in the units, so I'm looking at rounding that to the nearest 1, so that becomes 5, and then the squared is still by the side of that. And when you look at this one here, the tendency is to round it to 16. But again, please don't forget you're trying to round that to one significant figure, so you're asking yourself, is that number, sorry, the 1 is the first significant figure, and that's in the tens column, so you're rounding it to the nearest 10, so that number is closer to 20 than it is to 10. Okay, we've just got some quick calculations here, so just heads up, just keep an eye on them as we go through. So 8.75 take away 3.82, rewrite the calculation with each one being rounded to the nearest significant figure. So what we see from this one is the following. 9 take away 4, which is approximately 5. Moving on. Here we have the 18.21 divided by 5. That's where my first significant figure is. So you round to that to the nearest 10. So that's going to be 20. And then you're going to divide that by 5. Let's have a look at the next one. We've got 7.72 plus 13.63. Again, first significant figures are here when you've done your rounding. And finally, your answer giving you 6. Moving on to the next one. 5.61, here are my first significant figures. Moving on. This time round, first significant figures are here. Remember, this one is rounding it to the nearest 10 because the 9 is in the tens column. So that's why we'll end up with square root of 100. Square root of 100 is 10, add the 50 makes the 60. 60 over 6 is approximately 10. Well, 60 over 6 is exactly 10. What we're saying is that our answer here is approximately 10. Similar deal for that one. First significant figures. Now, people, would you mind having a go at that? I'll give you a minute. Our answers are approximately 8. Moving on, would you try this one, please? Again, I'll give you a minute. Our answers are approximately 2. Again, here are your first significant figures. So you're rounding all of these to the nearest unit. Moving on. Would you mind trying this, please? Again, I'll give you a minute. Bear in mind my first significant figures are here, here and here. Nearest 100 for this one, nearest 10 for this one, nearest 10 for this one. Square root of 400 is 20. 20 take away 10 gives me the 10. 10 over 20 is approximately, well, is exactly 0.5, but we're saying our answer is approximately 0.5. Okay, people, would you mind having a go at the last 7 questions, please? Give yourself approximately 5 minutes for this. Our final answer is would you mind please checking and scoring for your work for today? Okay, let's have a look at what we got. So on question 1, rounded to one significant figure, that goes to the nearest unit, that goes to the nearest unit, and so I'm looking at 7. Add the 4, gives me approximately 11. On question 2, that's my first significant figure, that's my first significant figure, and so I'm looking at 40 divided by 8, that's approximately 5. On question 3, there's my first significant figure and there's my first significant figure. So I'm looking at, on the top row, 1,000, because I'm rounding it to the nearest 1,000 on that row, and on the second row, the 47.6, but I'm rounding it to the nearest 10, so that's 50, and that gives me approximately 20. On question 4, this number rounded to one significant figure is 9. This one becomes 7. And finally, this one becomes 8. So what do we have? Nine add the 7 is 16 divided by the 8 gives me approximately 2. On question 5, we are looking at this number rounded to one significant figure becomes 7 squared plus this number 4.56 becomes 5 and 3.82 becomes 4. So on the top row we have 49 plus the 5 becomes 54. 54 divided by 4, so we want to half 54 and then half it again. So half in 54 becomes 27, and half of 27 is approximately 13.5. On question 26, so on question 6, this number becomes to one significant figure 4, and it's 4 squared. This is my first significant figure, so that becomes 0.5. And on the bottom I've got 21.5, so that's nearest to the nearest 20. Take away 3.82, so rounded that to the nearest unit, so that's 4. So on the top part of my fraction I've got 16, let's highlight those ones. I've got 16 from there, and I'm going to multiply that by a half. Half of 16 becomes 8. Underneath that, 20 take away 4 becomes 16. So that's why we're getting our answer of approximately 1/2. Having a look at the final ones. 861, so that's my first significant figure in the hundreds columns. This is closest then to 900, and from that I'm going to take away this number 4.55. The first significant figure is the 4. We need to round it up, so that becomes 5 squared on the top, and on the bottom here I've got this number 24.5, rounding that to the nearest 10 becomes 20, and this one 4.91, rounded to the nearest unit becomes 5. So on the top row, the square root of 900 is 30, and from that we're taking away 25, and on the bottom part of my fraction I have my 20 plus my 5. So this is about 5/25. Don't think I've got room to write that one on. So this is 5/25, which is approximately 0.2. So to finish off for today, what I want to be able to do is get you guys just to make a note on some of the work that you've done today, where you can actually say how it is that you've rounded in order to do the estimation. So have a look back through your work, probably some of the last couple of questions you've done, and what I want, please, is for you just to write down how you did this, so it's like a note to your future self explaining how you did the work. And when you're done, would you mind, please, just put in that part of the work in a red box so it stands out. Okay, people, you've got 3 minutes. Okay, ladies and gents, that's us done for the day. Remain seated, please. Put all your stuff away and then wait for your teacher to dismiss you. Thank you very much.